This month of July ends with the feast of St. Ignatius of Loyola. This 16th century Spanish priest had an enormous impact upon the church and continues to this day. Ignatius's incredible love for the Lord, coupled with his profound zeal for the church, led him to enable the church to navigate some very, very tumultuous years following the Protestant Reformation. His famous retreat, the spiritual exercises that were the fruit of his own conversion process, have been a great source of spiritual inspiration for so many Christians for the last 500 years. The community that he founded, the Jesuits, or the Society of Jesus, has had an enormous impact as well upon the missionary and educational work of the church since the 1500s. And so, of course, one of the things that Ignatius is most famous for in the world, at least at 1600 Carlin Lane, is the fact that he's one of the patron saints of youth apostles. I'd like to touch on a few key elements of Ignatius's life and spirituality that continue to influence so many Christians around the world today. First of all, the notion of a kind of conversion through adversity. Ignatius was a pretty, kind of moderate Christian, maybe not even moderate, until he went through a great tragedy in his life, and that was when he was injured seriously at the Battle of Pamplona. There he was hit by a cannonball, and both of his legs were pretty seriously injured. And it was in the midst of that convalescence from that great injury that Ignatius began to read some books on the life of Christ and on the lives of the saints. And it was there that his heart began to change and he began to grow in his love for the Lord. And I think that so often in our lives, it's not until we go through some significant trial or experience some great suffering that God is able to find his way into the depths of our heart. A second thing is the transformation of his natural desires. I think God often works that way. And so with Ignatius, he grew up with a tremendous passion to be a soldier in the courts of Spain, and he wanted to spend his life defending the King of Spain. God got a hold of Ignatius and transformed that desire so that Ignatius wanted to be a soldier fighting for the King of Kings, Jesus Christ himself. In fact, he named his new community the Company of Jesus, which often gets translated in English into the Society of Jesus. But company has a much more military connotation to it. Thirdly, a powerful style of prayer. St. Ignatius was famous for a form of prayer that strongly encourages the use of our imagination. And the saint from Loyola bore tremendous fruit in his own life, calling upon the Holy Spirit and using his imagination to place himself in those gospel stories. And so he strongly encouraged us to ponder the sounds, the sights, the smells, the location as we place ourselves in those scenes. And to trust that God actually wants to speak to us in the same way that he spoke to those who were physically present in those gospel passages. Fourth, a love for Mary. St. Ignatius had a wonderful devotion to the Blessed Mother. And during his own conversion, the Blessed Mother appeared to Ignatius in a vision that was a tremendous source of comfort for him during a very difficult moment in his life. Later on, Ignatius would hand his sword in a very real, physical, powerful moment in his life to the Blessed Mother at an image of the Blessed Mother at Montserrat. Later on, in Rome, at the Church of St. Paul outside the walls, Ignatius and his early brothers would pray very seriously before an image of our Blessed Mother and the child Jesus when they made their first vows. Finally, the Magis. St. Ignatius, like Jesus, was not a fan of mediocrity. And he did not want his prayer, his service of his neighbor, his love for God, his work to build up his community to be something that would ever be kind of described in mediocre terms. Ignatius was a deeply passionate man, and he wanted to do things not only for the glory of God, but for the greater glory of God. And that notion of the greater glory of God drove Ignatius's life. And so whenever we see buildings at Jesuit high schools or universities that have the AMDG, it's from the Latin ad majorem Dei gloriam, this desire of Ignatius to give it all for the glory of God. And so, my brothers and sisters, study the life of St. Ignatius. Study the lives of the saints, and they will help you to have a heart that is on fire for God. God bless you.